the golden gavel, and I will call the special meeting of the Board of Directors Wednesday, July 15th at 5:30 to order. And I've asked Director Flowen if he'd please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yeah, Josie.
There she is. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America,
and
to the republic which stands
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
God.
indivisible,
liberty and justice for all.
liberty and justice for all.
Well, welcome one and all. And I'll ask the general manager if there's a determination of a quorum.
All directors are present. You have a quorum.
You have to do a roll call on that or no?
Yes.
Yes, yeah. President Johnson,
Here.
Vice President Unger,
Here.
Director Flowen,
Here.
Director Hund,
Here.
Director Reynolds. Thought I saw Mike here earlier.
No.
Maybe not. Okay.
All right, I'll entertain item number 4, approval of the agenda.
I move we approve the agenda.
Second.
That was a second?
Yeah, you had two.
Yeah,
One from me and
Okay.
one from Gary.
All right, Gary.
Rebecca and Gary.
All right, General
make it-
Manager, you want to call the,
Yep. President Johnson,
aye?
Vice President Unger,
Aye.
Director Hund,
Aye.
Director Flowen,
Aye.
and Director Reynolds is absent.
Okay. At this time, set aside for public comment on the district-related matters not appearing on the agenda. Government code prohibits the board from taking action on the referred to for future consideration. Please state your name and limit your comments to 3 minutes. And I think those were supposed to be submitted in writing prior to the meeting. So with that done, I will move on to item number 6, the consent calendar. Are considered routine in nature and will be enacted with a single motion without discussion. Any board member or member of the public may request that an item be removed from the consent calendar and acted on separately. We're looking at the May 2020 check register and the draft minutes from the July 1st meeting. Are there any comments or a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Tom has a comment or a question,
Yes, sir.
statement. I noticed that there's about 12, and this is in the check report, on page 3 and then 5, there's about 12 notations for sampling by Babcock of the water, apparently. I say apparently because there's also about 3 of them from High Desert Medical Center also. And for High Desert Medical Center, there's about $1,100 in charges or fees from Babcock for sampling at the hospital. And what I also noticed is way over on page 27 or 22 of 27, it shows that there's an overhead fees reimbursement from High Desert Medical Center. So I was just kind of confirming that this $1,149 charge for the sampling is something that High Desert Medical Center actually pays for with that reimbursement or that little overhead part. Is this so, Susan or Ann?
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Yes, that's correct. They will reimburse for the actual costs, and the 22.5% overhead will be applied as well.
So in essence, what I'm getting here is that the hospital is sort of with their packaged sewage treatment plant, their pay is, they pay their own bills for all of that, the overhead for operating all of that. And we don't actually pay anything. And not only that, any effort that we put into attending to their business, we get paid for that too. We're reimbursed by them.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, Mr. President.
Yes, sir. With that, any other comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I would move we approve the consent calendar.
I'll second
Second.
that. All right, several. General Manager?
Director Flowen,
Yes.
Director Hund,
Aye.
Vice President Unger,
Aye.
President Johnson,
Aye.
and Director Reynolds is absent.
Okay, item number 7, third quarter ending March 31st fiscal report. Recommend that the Board of Directors receive and file, and I'm not sure who that's Ann or Susan.
That will be me tonight.
All right,
Our report begins on page 15 of your packet, if you want to get there. But we won't go over page 15 because page 15 is really the summary if you don't want to go into the details. We're going to talk about the details tonight, so we'll start right on page 16. So page 16 shows our cash balances. We had $11,305,000 at the end of March 31st. This is the report that differs slightly from what went to the Finance Committee. If you recall, there was I noted there was a discrepancy, and it was the totals in the legally restricted and district restricted columns. It did not change the total of this report in any way, okay? So you'll notice here, and I wanted to draw everybody's attention to it because I heard recently from the CAC that there was some concern about where this wastewater capacity money was, and it sits on this report. And if you look on the far left column, you've got your LAIF, L-A-I-F column, or area towards the middle, and then down that little indented column, you're going to see water capacity and then wastewater capacity. We've got $1,019,076 in our wastewater capacity fund as of the end of March. So that money always sits on this page, so you can see at any point in time how much money we've got in that fund. So that's the money that we were talking about using to pay our wastewater strategy update, the report that we're doing. We also see here down more almost at the bottom of the report, we've got $703,317 left in our CERP construction fund. So that's what remains from our $3 million alone. A year ago, we had $1.9 million. So we've spent down $1.2 million in the last year, basically. Total cash is $75,972 more than last quarter, and it's $487,000 less than 1 year ago. So moving on to the cash flow explanation on page 17. Summary of the cash flow report on the following page. We started our quarter with $11,229,000. All the source of all of the monies that we got during the quarter, $1.538 million. Things like property taxes of $154,000, customer and project deposits, $28,000. Those unbudgeted meter installation and capacity fees, $141,000 for the quarter. That's pretty regular and consistent, it seems anymore, this meter revenue. And then we got an $82,240 reimbursement, the general fund from the CERP construction loan fund. So we advanced monies and we've been reimbursed for that from the loan. Then during the quarter, we used $1.462 million on all sorts of things. We paid our Copper Mountain Mesa Assessment District debt service, $61,000. And we had about $149,000 worth of capital costs during the quarter. Things such as the wastewater treatment strategy I just talked about, the Tilford and Saddleback mainline construction projects, The district elections, we had a lingering bill related to that project. Skate improvements and a valve turning machine. We ended our quarter with $11,305,000, increasing our cash balance by about $76,000 during the quarter. So on the next page, 18, you have much more detail about that. So it's the expanded version of what I just shared with you. For example, you see all the property tax collections, the individual line items in the top section. Property taxes received for general district, ID2, standby collections, prior, standby current, property taxes received for Copper Mountain Mesa. So those are all totaled into one number that then is presented on the summary page as all of the tax and assessment collections for the month. So unless you have questions there. On to page 20, we've got our property tax and our revenues and collection. The bottom line is that our billed revenue this year increased about 3%, and our year-to-date collections are down about 4%. So that's kind of a significant swing there. And interestingly, the prior year collections, collections for the Copper Mountain Mesa Assessment District are up, but the prior collections from standbys are down. Remember that prior or past due delinquent property taxes and assessment have to be paid as properties are sold. So this can be an indicator of what's happening in the community. And it looks like maybe there's a lot of property, transactions occurring up in Copper Mountain, not so much in the rest of the district as a whole. So, that's not an assurance of that. It can be an indicator. On to the next page 21, the board report summary. This is the summary of all the, 4 or 5 pages that follow. Total operating revenues are 74% of budget. We're at 3/4 of the year that, should be around 75. We're right on target there. Water revenues are 72% of budget, a little bit lower. Our special services revenues are up because we increased, remember, so many of those user fees, not delinquent charges, I don't know. All sorts of costs associated with, setting up a new service, return check charges, those sorts of miscellaneous little user fees. And the budget was not increased accordingly last year. We've got property tax revenues exceeding the amended budget by $112,000 almost, or 6%. Development related unbudgeted revenues are at nearly $247,000 for the year. So this is a pretty consistent, in the last few years anyway, source of revenue for us, is these development related things. But all this money is either restricted legally because it's capacity charges and can only be used for growth, projects related to growth, or it is used to do the work. I mean, a meter installation charge is, covers the cost of installing the meter. So they're, they have corresponding either restrictions or costs associated with them. Then in our expense section there, in total, we're at 61% of expense at the 3/4 point in our year. You can see department by department. There's nothing, that alarms me in the least there. Even SERP at 123%. Remember, this is the first, full year of this, the first budget related to this entire program. So there were many guesstimates, involved in that work. We've done a better job with the budget, I'm assuming, for 2021. And in reality, this 123% is a very small number, dollar-wise. Percentage-wise, it looks quite dramatic, but I think it's something like $22,000. So in our $7+ million budget, it's inconsequential. Total operating revenues exceed total operating expenses by over $2 million as of the 3rd quarter. So then we go into the detail there, starting on page 22, and this is all the various line item accounts. So, I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. Maybe I could draw your attention there on page 22, in that very first section is that special services revenue, almost 13%. 113% almost in the third quarter. That's the budget, that special services revenue of all those user fees that were increased. So we're seeing increased revenue, with a smaller budget. So any other questions, I'm happy to answer if you have questions about specific line items here. Back to page 24, maybe a couple pages back. You can see that CERT section. It's the second full section on that page, and where we talk about that being 123% of budget. You can see the column right next to it shows that reflects $22,000. It's a fairly small number in the scheme of our very large budget. So not to be alarmed about that.
Down there.
So if there are no questions, then page 27 is the water sales consumption report. And we can see for the 12 months ending 3/31/20, water use is nearly 13% less than it was last year. So this is a trend that, I'm seeing. And we had a little blip. You can see 3/31/2018 to 2019, we actually increased about 4%, but now we've swung back the other direction, almost 13% decrease. And year over year, we are seeing decreased water consumption. So, I saw 1,600 acre feet of water that we delivered, back in the day to a smaller number of customers. So per capita usage is going down. Both, as a result of drought and mandates, but, for whatever reason. So we know what that means, and that the cost of water goes up, on a per unit basis, unfortunately. So over the from 2018 to 2020, it's over 9.5% decrease in water consumption over the 2 years. So remember, again, this doesn't correlate to that conservation mandate that the governor, that we had to report on for so long. This relates to not specific classes of users, which is what that conservation mandate related to, only residential customers within certain, criteria. And this is water sales. So how much water have we sold to customers? That's what this table reports. Then we've got our consumption ranking, and it's the, usual suspects, the top 10 are on this list most every month. We don't have any leak from a customer this time, fortunately. And we see often that housing and the hospital sort of move from the first, the breakdown of at the bottom grouping. Sometimes it's the hospital or medical in the top spot, and sometimes it's housing. So quite a few different multi-unit housing groups in our top 10. So I'm happy to answer any questions. That's the end of my report.
Susan, refresh my memory, if you will, please, why the woods are highlighted in red.
You mean like Morongo Unified
Morongo.
School? Those are colors,
Yes,
and it's probably hard to tell, but that is actually orange, and the Morongo Unified School District and Joshua Tree Parks and Recreation ties to public agency in the bottom section.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, and there are other colors. It's sort of perhaps hard for you to tell.
Well, I am colorblind, so that helps.
Oh,
me to
well,
figure
yeah,
that out.
cool.
Okay.
I'm sorry. That's what that's about. So each
Okay.
of them, there's 4 different colors, and so yeah.
There we go. 4,
Yeah.
huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
Blue,
Okay.
green, blue, green.
Well, with that,
purple.
I'll entertain some questions. We'll start with Director Hund.
Yeah, maybe more just
Okay.
comment. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. I'm
Yes, sir.
I'm speculating. Can you not hear me?
You're coming through.
I hear you.
There you go.
Okay. I'm speculating that COVID-19 might have something to do with reductions in water use. I mean, I don't know if you've done, comparisons for customers like the Morongo Unified School District, but obviously, kids being instructed from home and other businesses being closed or scaled back in the level of operation, even though that would translate to a little bit more use at home, I'm guessing is a factor, but, not to minimize what you were saying, Susan, about the overall decrease over time. I think we can expect that to trend to continue for a while and then maybe eventually stabilize. But it's an interesting thing to me, that possibility. And
actually, we've been tracking that pretty closely because we're concerned about the revenue side, of course. And so,
right.
First of all, this is as of March 31st. So
right.
we had really only been on lockdown for a couple weeks at that point in time. And remember, the bills that went out in March were for consumption before that time frame. So this does not include any sort of, COVID-19 impacts whatsoever. However, we've also been analyzing since that time frame what's happening with water consumption, and overall we're not seeing any kind of decrease to consumption that causes any sort of alarm. Remember that a lot of these top 10 users, they're still in business. The hospital, all these housing places, the laundry, except for the school district, which comes after this point in time, the closure. These people are really all still in business. And so I don't know if the increased consumption perhaps occurring because people are hunkered down at home now, it causes increases to their household consumption is compensating perhaps for the decrease in any commercial consumption. And commercial, frankly, it's just not it's not where our big consumption comes from. Well over 90% of our water use is from our residents. So we are fortunately not seeing reductions in water use, that are in any way concerning up to this point.
Well, that's good to know, because obviously if we took a hit on top of 13% reduction otherwise, that would be tough. So yeah, good point, Saul. Thank you for that, Susan.
Sure.
And and I'm curious. Yeah, and I wondered about the offset from people being at home. If their kids are at home, they're going to be using more water, right? So. And like you said, most of the commercial customers are still, functioning in one way or the other, including the organization I work for. We're still running our nursery operation, which is our biggest, use of water. We're not doing the water in the building, but that's a small portion of it. And, I'm just curious, and you may have the answer, but, the Memorial Park has consistently been one of the top customers, but I think it was probably 2 years ago now, they got a Prop 1 grant and went to Xeriscape and pulled out, I think, a bunch of turf. So I'm just wondering if we've seen much of a change in their water consumption since they got that Prop 1 grant.
I unfortunately do not know a thing about that. I know about the grant, but I don't. I haven't been involved in looking at their water consumption. I'm sure we could easily do that and report it back.
Yeah,
I've noticed that I'm sorry. They've stayed high.
I have some information.
Oh, you have something about that, Kathleen?
Yeah. What happened, they got the grant and they were really excited they thought they found the right formula for replacing. They were just doing small strips of grass and all this xeriscaping. And then we got hit with that 100-year flood and it destroyed their property.
Oh.
And it was costing them a fortune to rip out and possibly redo. So I can see where ripping out and the water consumption starting all over again, because I know even in native plant gardening, you have to use water in the first 3 years to get them established. So I really don't know what they finally did, because it just destroyed everything and they hadn't completed using up the grant. They were nearing completion. So it was one of those perfect storms for them, and they contacted me because we were going to do a really cool article about it, and they were devastated. They said it's just everything's ruined. So it could be why we don't see any change.
They were
so
letting
real-
the trees die.
Well, like I said, they were pretty devastated by
Yeah.
losing everything that they've invested in with the grant. So,
Too bad.
Thank you for that, Kathleen. And, you know, back to the budget real quickly so we can move on. I just want to say overall, once again, you know, how impressed I am. And it's very helpful to have these quarterly updates and to see where we stand. And it looks like, you know, things are pretty solid and on track overall. I noticed the overall percentage is at 61%. And I don't know if that's a concern or not, but it's certainly not. No. Okay. All right. So anyway, President Johnson, that's all I had. Thank you.
All right, Director Florin.
Nothing specific. I was just hoping to get either Ann or Susan to do a little accounting 101. And you already touched on it, but just differentiate between a certain amount of money, like this, for example, the wastewater capacity fee, that $1.8 million is is legally restricted. And then there's a second column unrelated to that that says district restricted. Could you just explain what those two things are and what the differences are?
So the law dictates in some cases that money can only be used for certain purposes. For example, our Copper Mountain Mesa Assessment District, those people have an assessment district. They're obligated to pay. We are entrusted to manage the money that is forwarded to us for payment of the debt service there. That's an example of something that's legally restricted. All monies associated with the Copper Mountain Mesa Assessment District are legally restricted for purposes associated with that project only. Wastewater capacity and water capacity charges are also legally restricted, can only be used for growth-related projects. We're saying that you are buying into our system, you're increasing the demand on our system. What is the cost of that demand on our system? And at some point, we're going to have to increase the size, the capacity of our system because of you. That is legally restricted for projects associated with building that growth. Okay, can't use that to pay salaries or electric bills. It's for infrastructure associated with growth. Okay. Those are examples of legally restricted. Deposits are another thing. Customers give us their guarantee deposit when they set up their account, or customers give us a deposit when they start a construction project with those. Those are given to us in trust for those costs, and they are due back. We're obligated to pay those back, you know, unless the deposit is fully used, of course. Then we've got district restricted, which is anything that the board has elected that they want to set aside for specific purposes. Has no legal restriction. It's the board has said, we want to establish an emergency capital reserve. We want to set aside, you know, a specific amount of money, or you know, whatever money we have, for this purpose. The board has designated. The meter replacement reserve is another example of that. We have money we've collected over time. It is set aside for a specific purpose at the board's designation, not a legal designation. Okay. Does that help?
It's outstanding. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Director Unger.
Yeah, we had a chance to go over these things at the Finance Committee. Glad my fellow directors get a chance to, you know, ask their questions. Everyone always has different questions, yeah, and you still get great answers. So thank you so much. And that's all I have.
All right, and I just like to caveat and say thank you very much. Great report. On page 17, I think we highlighted that the meter installation and capacity fees was $141,000 item if I'm not. So that obviously is good for us, and I appreciate the report. And entertain a motion to for the board to recommend it to receive the third quarter funding or ending financial report. Item number 7.
So moved.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make
All
that
right,
motion.
is there a second?
Second.
You make the motion, I'll second it. General Manager, please.
President Johnson,
Aye.
Vice President Unger,
Thank you.
Aye.
Director Flowen,
Aye.
Director Hund,
Aye.
and Director Reynolds is absent.
Okay, well, we hope Mike is okay.
Yeah.
Moving on to item number 8, General Manager's report.
Perfect. So this week we met with staff after rolling out our pandemic and COVID specific policies last week. We met pretty much department by department to get any questions from staff that they might have had on its rollout and implementation throughout the district here. Got some good questions back from staff. And so operations wise, the district is still moving forward, providing those essential services. However, when it comes to the state that COVID-19 continues to put us in, the San Bernardino County Health Officer just placed another order out on July 13th, 2 days ago, basically shutting down on non-essential infrastructure again. And with the district trying to maintain our employees' health, we're looking at the customer lobby not being an essential piece of our business, and that will remain closed until further notice. Until some of these businesses start to open up or we start to see that fall back in line. However, that's not for lack of trying. Staff's been working towards opening up that front lobby and actually intended to do it on the 20th. And now this again pops up and put a stop to that. So just a quick update on current, if I can get the screen shared here. Come on. So our cases in the U.S. for COVID are close to 3.5 million cases nationwide with 135,000 deaths according to the Center for Disease Control. We've got here in California. Can everybody see the screen right now? Is that showing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So we've got almost 350,000 cases here in California alone, about 7,200 fatalities. And then more local to home, let me see if I can move this over towards the right of your screen. You can see Yucca Valley has 73 cases now. Joshua Tree, where are we at here? I'm passing it by here. Here you go. Has 11 cases. And so even locally, we continue to increase on the number of cases that are out there. You can see in San Bernardino County, there's a doubling rate right now of every 20 days, I believe it was at, on the confirmed cases. So there's 21,500 confirmed cases basically here in the county with a doubling time of every 20 days. So. And then past that, you've heard staff talk about working on our customer service remodel. We've been working with Michael, let's see if I can pull up this here. Our architect to kind of move some walls around a little bit. And I can show you what the end result, what we currently have would look like as you walk through the front door. This would basically kind of be a rendering of what you'd see, be immediately presented with the customer service desk there instead of having to go around a couple of corners and in fact not see one of our customer service reps the way it currently is. From what I understand, this is kind of going back to the old way it used to be to some extent, but certainly warranted, I think, for our customers' experience and space, especially with what we're dealing with these days with COVID-19. Kind of giving a blueprint view of that. I don't know if you can see my mouse or not right now. It's the only thing I really have to point with, but here's basically our front doors down there, middle, left, center, down at the bottom. You can see it gives us a lot more ADA compliance throughout the lobby. Both of our customer service desks, basically right towards the middle. And then this area here, where it says clerical assistant area, this door here is basically where our copy room, we used to enter into our copy room. The desk that now kind of sits out in the foyer area outside of our offices here on the admin side would now be moved into this clerical assistant area behind customer service. Both of these doors kind of locks everything down better that way as well. And then our copy room would basically be moved out here outside Sarah and Beverly and mine's office with basically half walls. So these walls that go up here are only about 4 foot tall. It still gives that appearance that the room is open, but also gives kind of keeps everything together in one area so it's not sprawled out all over the place there. So with the limited space that we have, I think this has gotten thrown together pretty good. Our staff has worked on trying to go back and forth with the architect to get something that would work good for staff and still make sense to construct. So that's all I have for tonight. Does staff have anything they want to share? Or?
Not me.
Sarah, Susan? Anybody?
No.
Perfect.
Okay, move on to item number 9, and that'll be directors' reports and meetings attended, comments from the directors, and future agenda items. And I'll start off with public information consultant, and that's Kathleen Radnich.
My turn?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, thank you. I have 5 things. The first one is federal legislation in the Senate is being discussed as a second round of a stimulus where it would provide waivers to employers who are in compliance with all the COVID health and safety. As it stands right now, there's a ruling that if an employee were to present COVID illness, it is presumed that they caught it at work, and they're stating that the employer is responsible then for their medical and their workman's comp, etc. However, if this second stimulus goes through at the Senate level, they're stating that the waivers would be provided in the stimulus bill to employers so they are no longer liable for this expense. So it's something to be watching. I found it very interesting. And then to our more local level here, the swamp cooler study is moving forward. It is at a lesser degree happening, but it is definitely already producing data. And I believe Mark spoke to that at the last meeting that I was not at. The leak detection class is still slated for July 30th, Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11. It is being done via Zoom, virtual. It requires RSVPing by July 28th, 4 p.m. We still have room. It is open to anyone in the Morongo Basin. The low-income assistance intake day event scheduled in August had to be canceled because of the new restrictions back with COVID. And we do hope to eventually bring it back when things lighten up. And then lastly, the Bureau of Land Management grant is still kind of on hold. We're still in the running for being awarded it, but because it is at the federal level and there's a lot of, well, they told me there's a lot of games going on right now at that level over the monies, and they're getting a little frustrated because they should have awarded who gets the grants by June 30th. So we are well into July, and they said they have to do it any day now because everyone that already was awarded a grant and they're on these 2- and 3-year project time frames and they need to be refunded are waiting for the funds. So we're hoping to hear one way or the other, and we are in the running for it. And that is my report. Are there any questions?
Hearing none. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, I'll move on to the Finance Committee, which met on July 8th, and that is Vice President Unger. I think you had the report. It was pretty riveting.
we brought it to the board. It actually was a pretty quick meeting, to where we could, bring the quarter report and the check register. We did have another topic on there. It hasn't come back yet in any way, having to do with the customer assistance program. So that's nothing to report on that. And that's it, I think, on the finance committee.
All right. And I'll move on to the Mojave Water Agency Board of Directors, July 9th, and that's Director Hun.
Yeah, folks, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
I can hear you.
Okay, good. It sounded like a couple times you weren't able to, so I wanted to make sure. So it was a good meeting as always, and just a few highlights, starting with their financial update, their investment update by Insight Investments, and a few key points that they mentioned, that their representative mentioned. Right now, inflation is at 0. Probably comes as no surprise to anyone. Energy and food costs have dropped. He was saying that that they anticipated in June it will be bottomed out. He also said that 2% inflation is ideal, because then consumers have an expectation of inflation and go out and make necessary purchases before they become more expensive. Right now, we don't have that, so that could slow down spending because people aren't worried about the cost of goods going up if they don't buy now. Also, non-manufacturing sector jumped 11% in June, went into positive territory. Of course, that had to do with the reopening. So now that we're having this spike in infections, I would anticipate that, that's going to go the other way. The same thing, manufacturing was up 9.5%. One prominent economist that this gentleman cited said that they believe we exited the recession in mid-June. I personally don't share that, but I'm not a prominent economist, but certainly with the way things have gone in the past few weeks, I think that has been called into question. And the gentleman was pretty confident. Well, he said that economic activity was down 5% in the first quarter, and down second quarter down 20%, and either down 20% or expected to be down. I don't know if the numbers were in yet or not. He was still projecting a V-shaped recovery with steep slope in the third quarter, but not as steep in the fourth. Again, all bets are off because of the increased spike in infections across the country and rescinding of some of the directives for reopening. He said that they were facing some challenges, which I would guess we are too, because bonds are maturing and the interest rates are very low right now. So, you have to reinvest at lower rates. He did say that, they've kind of pumped up the rates for short-term bonds, wanting people to invest in them. But he said that the better strategy was to, that the trend in bonds is up, and that the better strategy was to, purchase a little farther out. So anyway, I just found that very interesting, and I thought I would share that with you all. And then they are asked the board to approve a request for retaining a contractor, Merrill Johnson, for on-call engineering services. Right now, maybe you all may know, but Mojave Water Agency is short-staffed in engineering. Their director of engineering and operations retired at the end of 2019, and they were unsuccessful so far in hiring a full-time engineer to replace them, which I thought was really interesting. And also, the current staff is very busy, and also there are certain areas of expertise that staff doesn't have. So, you know, to cover the shortage in on-staff engineering and areas where they don't have expertise, they are going to enter into this contract with Merrill Johnson. It was approved. What was also interesting is that from their RFP, only Merrill Johnson applied. And however, they vetted them carefully and said that, you know, they're a very good firm. And I believe that one of the directors also, you know, mentioned having some knowledge of them. And it seemed like the board was very confident, even though they only had the one bidder, that they were a good firm and that that it would work out for them. They're also going to be, they approved going ahead with doing an infrastructure asset management program to inform repair and rehabilitation of facilities and replacement costs. And it's, you know, intended to better understand their system and what's going on with each facility. So they did approve a request for an RFP to be issued. And then one last thing, there was a letter of support for a House bill, House of Representatives bill, that will recognize special districts as local government. And apparently that's necessary in order to be eligible for federal stimulus funds. So it sounds like it's probably going to go forward and be approved, but I thought that was very interesting that, you know, we were not recognized as local government at the federal level yet.
Wow.
So so that's all I have. That's the highlights.
Interesting, thanks. Some good stuff in there, Gary.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Bob, you're muted.
Thank you, Director Hund. I'll move on to director's comments and start with Director Flowen, if I may. Comments?
Possibly slightly related matter. The GASB, Government Accounting Standards Board, I noticed, has a new guy in charge. His name is Joel Black. He started on July 1, and he did sort of an interview on their website. And part of the discussion was about the COVID-19 and how they were involved in it or reacting to it or participating in all of that. And he said that they do have on their website, this is kind of for Ann and Susan, they have a toolkit that will allow one to find things that could be potentially helpful with dealing with COVID-related issues in the standards that already exist. And they're very busy responding to technical inquiries. One of the things would be the CARES Act, which is, I believe, the $2 trillion stimulus package. I thought there were two. I'm not sure. One of them might be held up. And also about the payroll protection program. They're getting a lot of questions about those things. But possibly significant later on would be that they are extending the period for implementation of new GASB standards, which could affect our audits and any deadlines associated with them. And they're also, on a drier part, they're extending the comment period for any new standards that they're considering because of what they assume to be certain inefficiencies that are going to be taking place in the thousands of people that go by their rules. And by the way, not so by the way, that's us. We go by GASP and GASB rules, and one of the things the auditors do is they come in and they tell us about new standards, and they also see how well we are following on the standards issued, existing standards issued by these GASB folks. So all this is, those last two things about the comment period and delaying deadlines or beginning periods for implementation of the new standards, those could be affecting us down the line a little bit. Thank you, Mr. President.
I'll say that we don't mind any time they want to delay implementation.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, I brought good news. Good.
Thanks for the good news. Yes.
Thank you.
You're muted, Bob.
Oh, don't want you to hear the barking dogs. Director Hund, comments?
Just one thing that I forgot, and that's that, and staff probably knows this, but the LAIF, Local Agency Investment Fund, that financial report also indicated that the investment return is down in the teens now, the tenths of percentage points. So, that could also affect our revenue because of the restrictions on investments that we have.
Yep.
That's all. Thanks.
Comments? Going once. Going twice.
I also heard a rumbling misinterpretation of what I could hear. And I guess that was me you called, Mr. President?
Well, Mr. Reynolds, Director
Wow.
Reynolds,
Hey, Bob,
we're
hey,
on item number 9, and we are just asking for director's comments.
Okay, well, thank you very much. My apologies for being late. Unfortunate work had to get in my way, but it got here as fast as we could, and I look forward to hearing about all the things I missed. I would like to say the COVID, like it or not, here we are. We have a challenge ahead. It's much to do, and it's just not going to be easy. And with that, I'd like to encourage everybody to stay safe, stay compliant, and let's keep our attitudes and positive thoughts moving forward. And let's just all do the best we can and keep a smile on our face and make the best with what we have. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Director Unger.
I'd like to pick up on something that Director Hund noticed about the Mojave Water Agency meeting. Gary, it was an infrastructure asset management plan. Is that what Mojave was doing? Director Hund? Gary? Anyway, I think that's what I heard, and it sounded like something interesting.
It's infrastructure asset management program.
Yeah. You think that's something that would be something that we should look at here? Did it sound like it was bigger than us, or something we should do?
Well, I was curious what staff would think about that. I don't know, given the size of our operation, if staff feels that would be beneficial to us or not. So I'll just say that.
That was really interesting. And a real quick, Mark, I didn't ask you once we start working on the lobby, when is that going to be, and how long do you think it's going to take?
We got a head start that we're going to open up, and that's why the mobile mini got out there as soon as it did. So we'll probably look at it at least, once we get this approved by the board at the first meeting next month, probably 30 days from that point to get bids in, and then probably looking at another 2 to 3 months to get the work completed. So it's a pretty decent.
So by the end of fall,
yeah.
Maybe. Okay. And I wanted to thank Tom for listening to a GASB meeting. Good Lord. But all those things help us. They all help us with our best practices and things that we have to do to comply. And I think that was it.
All right. I'd just like to wrap this part up and say thank you to the staff for excellent work, especially the finance committee and the administrative finance department. Want to encourage everyone, as Director Reynolds said, to stay safe and who you're about. And also, just as a sort of a public update, Director Unger and myself sit on the ad hoc committee for the COVID-19, and we continue to meet with staff and discuss, the way forward. And thanks to Sarah and crew for all the hard work. I'm sure you'll be able to see most of the information online, and the director should be have had notes sent forward to them so they can be pretty much appraised bit by bit. And thank you to Beverly for making that happen. Item number 10, future director meetings, training opportunities. Mojave Water Agency, the 23rd of July is Director Reynolds. Mike, you have that on your calendar? I hear that, yes. I don't hear anything.
I had to unmute,
Basin.
thumbs up. I hear you loud and clear.
Morongo Basin Pipeline Commission is, and that should be a correction. I believe it's the 27th at 2 p.m. versus the 28th. And the Joshua Basin Legislative Public Information Committee is August 5th at 9:30 a.m. That's Vice President Unger, Director Flowen, and Kathleen Radnich. And our board of directors is slated for the 5th of August. And with that, I will move. The board will go into closed session to consult with legal counsel pursuant to paragraph 2 of subdivision D of the Government Code section 54956.9 and potential litigation. And do I need a motion to do that, General Manager? I'll take that
Jeff,
as I do.
I don't think so. It's on the agenda. We can just move to that item.
All right, so someone note the time. I believe it's 6:27. We'll go on to closed session. Thank you, everyone. Mark, you're going to redirect us, is that correct?
Yeah, you should be getting a thing up on your screen here
Okay.
anytime here.
Will there be a report afterwards?
Yes, there will be a report out.
Okay.
What do I have on here? So what's that? I'm sorry.
Do I need to leave the recording on?
No, should shut off. Thank you. Why is this not? There you go. There you go. Who has